Hi everybody, it's Thursday the 4th of March and this is your slightly different activity for the afternoon. Instead of doing our art and history as we have been doing, we're going to celebrate today, which is World Book Day, a celebration of reading and the enjoyment of reading. And what we're going to do today is share a story with you, and as we go through the story, I'm going to give you some suggestions of some activities that you could try. And you can go off and you've got today and tomorrow, Friday, to have a go at those activities and choose what you want to do. You might want to do some other ones of your own, but send them in and we can share them with the rest of the year group. Just to show you at the bottom, this is how much we love reading. I'm currently reading two books at the minute. I'm reading this one, which is a Peter Crouch, which is an autobiography. You may know him as a footballer. And I'm also reading a new Jack Reacher by the author Lee Child called Blue Moon. It's got nothing to do with being a Man City fan before you think that, but it's a very enjoyable book. And Miss Howell has just finished this one by Jojo Moyes, The Giver of Stars, and really enjoyed it. I wonder what she's going to be reading next. So what we're going to look at, I'm going to read to you this story, and it's from the Brownstones Mythical Collection by Joe Todd Stanter, and it's called Arthur and the Golden Rope, and it has a Viking link to it, which is what our new history topic is. So there's a nice link there. You may have already read it, you may have it at home, and you can read it yourself to refresh your brain. If you haven't read it before, then you can listen to me read it, or if you want to, you can mute me, which I'm sure some of you probably want to do anyway, but you can pause the screen and read the story yourself. But if you'd like to, I'm going to read it to you and you can follow it. And as we go through 3 times through the story, it's going to stop and I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas that you could do for your activity. So let's get started. Now the first page is this page before the story begins. This shows you the 2 worlds that are involved in the story. We've got Iceland, which is on this side here, which is a country north of Great Britain. And we've also got, make believe, if you believe it or not, a legendary land called the Norse world, where you have places like Middle-land and Valhalla, which is where the story takes place of lots of Viking myths about gods. Around the edges we can see we've got different ones there. Got Balder, we've got Odin, Frasier and Thor, who are involved in the story but are also historical Viking gods. So we can find out a little bit about them. So straight away we could think about what could we do with this page, even though there's no writing. What we could do, an idea for you to try if you wanted to, is to design an advertising poster to visit Iceland using what you have learnt about the wizard school. So you remember in English when you were writing about advertising to go to the wizard school, you can use those skills and those tricks that you learnt to write an advertising poster to go and visit Iceland. What can you do in Iceland? What is there that would attract people to want to go and visit? So you could use your persuasive language that will entice the reader to visit. On the website, on the web page, there are some videos that you can watch, and there are also some posters that look like these. I'll show them to you next. You can have a read of these and you can gain some ideas. Magpie, any language you see to give you some help. Things that you might want to mention when you're reading and you're writing your poster would be maybe the landscape of Iceland. What is the landscape like? Is it mountainous? Is it flat? Is it covered in forest? Is it covered in ice? The food, what types of food do Icelandic people eat? When it has then maybe attractions, what things can you go visit? Maybe museums, art galleries, famous buildings, monuments. Are there sports activities famous in Iceland that you can try? Also accommodation. Where are some nice places to stay? What type of hotel would be a good idea you could stay in? Be in a cold country, can you stay in an igloo? Also as well, attractions is there twice for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe you could write about attractions twice. When it means visiting websites, here are a couple of ideas that you could go on to. You could try Google Earth. And Google Earth, that we know we've used at school before, is when we can get a good view, whether it's maps or satellite view, which you can change to. And you can get an idea of the landscape of the country. You can really zoom in, and you can click on here to find out information about these places. You can click here, points of interest. This one is in Reykjavik, the capital city, but you can find those. Even better, you can then zoom in and click on this button and you get to go to Street View. So you can actually see all around cities, even in the landscape, the wild landscape where there aren't a lot of densely populated places. You can actually go and see a Street View and see what it's like there to get an idea. That one is obviously on Google and you can access that for free. Another possibility you might want to try is Google Expeditions. Some of you might know about this already. This is not on the internet, but this is an app that is free to download, and this is where you can do things like virtual reality. But if you don't have those, even just by downloading it, you can type in here Iceland, and then it could take you to these places here. And you've got 5 images where you can move around, view it in virtual reality if you can, or you can view it naturally. You can scan with your finger and move it around. So there's 2 ways that these will help you get an idea of what Iceland is like as a country, and use what you've learnt to put that into your poster. Here are some of the advertising posters that we talked about, where you can have a read and pick up little ideas, little words of persuasive language that you could use. So again, if you want to, you can pause the video, or again, these are on the web page and you can have a look at these, pick out, oh, I'll take that bit, I like how it's done that. So think it might be the way that the sentences are written, it might be how it starts with a question to engage the reader. So have a look at these to see. There's one about visiting Austria. There's another one here which is about visiting Budapest. You can look at the layout and see how it's done, things that you can include. And also there's an advertisement just for a hotel. So if you wanted to advertise a place to stay as well, you could do that one. And this one is called the Orchard Hotel in Bournemouth. So again, you can look at the language, read, maybe steal some ideas that you like and you'd like to put into yours. But there's lots of ideas for the first activity. And we haven't even started reading the story yet. So we better get going with that. Let's begin. Hello, dear reader, and welcome to the Brownstone Family Vault. Within this room lie artifacts of great power and rarity, collected over thousands of years from every corner of the globe. My most treasured possession is actually this humble collection of books. They contain tales of lands and creatures long forgotten, as told by the people who collected these amazing objects, my ancestors. They include such adventures as Eleanor Brownstone's discovery of the Crystal Kingdom and her subsequent death-defying escape, my great-great-grandfather Eric Brownstone's epic battle with the 100-headed Snake King of Tukanook Island, and many others. But before all that, there was the first adventure a Brownstone ever had. This is the tale of Arthur, the unlikeliest of heroes. Born long ago in a small Icelandic town, it was clear from an early age that Arthur was always going to be a bit different. As soon as he was old enough to explore the forest, he showed a great interest in the strange creatures that lived there. At night, while the town folk would gather around the safety of the great fire, Arthur would sit and listen to Atrix, the town's wise woman, She would tell him wondrous and frightening tales about distant lands and ancient magic. Arthur soon began to journey into the forest to search for adventures. He even started to carry with him some of the more unusual items he had found. For returning her egg, the mighty bird Windweaver gave him a special feather that would grant him help at a time of need. By putting an end to the great, or rather tiny, war between goblins and fairies, he was given an enchanted staff. High in an ancient tower, he discovered the Hand of Time, which held the power to freeze anyone who touched it. And Atrix gave him this very journal I am reading from, after the most dangerous challenge of all, rescuing her cat from a tree. One day, while Arthur was attempting to track down a rare species of magical worm, he was startled by a terrible howl. A moment later, he was plunged into darkness as a huge black shape bounded over him and disappeared. Arthur quickly clambered up the nearest tree and poked his head over the top of the canopy. Right there, heading straight for his town, was a monstrous black wolf. He could only watch in horror as the wolf put out the great fire before it leapt back into the darkness of the forest. Arthur hurried back to the town and felt the cold close in on him. The final embers of the great fire were dying, and everyone was huddled together as Atrix began to speak. Without the great fire warming our town, every house will be frozen solid in less than a week, Atrix warned, and all of us soon after. The townsfolk gasped in fear. But wait, there is a way we can be saved. Across the sea lies the land of the Viking gods. In a mighty hall on top of a mountain, there lives a god with a hammer that can command the skies. He alone has the power to relight our fire. As the townfolk looked around, they realized a slight problem with this plan. Everyone had been injured by the wolf, from their toughest warriors to their doughiest bakers. There was no one to send. "Arthur's not hurt," piped up one of his classmates. "I wouldn't be surprised if all this meddling brought the beast to us in the first place. He's much too small. He wouldn't last 2 seconds in the land of the gods. And the only reason he has remained unhurt is because he spends all his time in the forest with those demons. Yeah, he's just a no-good meddler." Oh dear, poor Arthur. That night, Arthur lay wide awake, the harsh words of the townfolk running through his head. Maybe he was a meddler and had led the wolf straight to the town. Taking a deep breath, Arthur decided that he must go and find the god of the storms. Packing up his most useful possessions, he climbed out of his bedroom window and headed for the harbour. He'd had many adventures in the forest. How much harder could this be? And here you can see there's an image of the route that he took to get to his destination. A long way he rode and sailed. Quite a few battles you can see there with different monsters. And this leads us on to the next task. Looking at that image we've just seen, an idea for you to try is describe the journey that Arthur took. What creatures did he encounter? Trying some different sentences. Can you use your 2A? That means 2 adjectives. and sentence of 3 to describe the journey. Here's an example. On the first leg of my journey, I circled the lonely island, became lost in thick, blanketing fog, and encountered a terrifying giant octopus, which I had to battle to escape from its clutches. So that's written in the first person because it has I. But you could change it so it's written in the third person to he, if you wanted to make it more like a story rather than a diary entry. You could write about this, or another way you could present it, you could come up with some different ideas all by yourself. You might want to do it like a puppet show. You might want to draw out a storyboard or a story map that we do in English. Some children have shown their work this week and in previous weeks using Lego and videos and even Minecraft. You could have a go at showing that journey in any way that you would like. So have a think if you'd like to do that and how you could show that journey on that previous page. But let's carry on with the story. After a long journey, Arthur finally reached the great hall. The powerful doors swung open and a voice boomed. "Welcome, young traveller. I am Thor, god of sky and thunder." The warrior god listened intently as Arthur recounted the fate of his town. At last he nodded gravely. "The wolf is Fenrir, son of the evil god Loki, and he has ravaged many villages over the past years. I will relight your great fire, but only under one condition. You must help me capture the beast," said Thor. Arthur could only tremble in his boots as Thor explained how the gods had already failed to trap the wolf. Fenrir had nearly squished Freyja, the goddess of love, while she had tried to cast a spell. Then there was Balder, the god of justice, who had only just escaped from the jaws of the beast despite his amazing strength. And Thor's own brother, Tyr, had his hand bitten off when he tried to outwit the wolf. The only way to stop Fenrir is with a rope made from 2 incredibly rare items: the sound of a cat's footfall and the roots of a mountain, said Thor. And by the looks of things, you have collected many strange things already. Before Arthur could refuse, Thor handed him 2 glass bottles and sent him on his way. So here we could see this is our other idea that we could try. And what we'd like you to maybe see is if you can create a comic. What this could be is based on the stories we just found out about those other gods and how Fenrir defeated them. And can you show this, maybe design a comic? It could be a comic about those ones you saw. You could research the different Viking gods and create a comic of one of their adventures. Okay, and provided on the web page is an information pack about those different gods you can download and use that to help you. You could, if you wanted to, use Book Creator. We used that to write out our stories at school when we wrote our alien landing story. And you could use that and you can create, and I'll show you in a minute how you can create a comic on Book Creator. If you wanted to do this, though, very important in brackets, you would need to create your own account to do this. You wouldn't be able to log on to the Year 5 account because we can only make 40 books and we've got 30 there already. So here are some options on how you could create your comic story. You could use Book Creator. You could find out about the different gods. And also available on the website are some blank comic strip pages for you to use if you want to. If you don't have access to a printer or even Book Creator or anything like that, you can draw out your comic if you like to, including your speech bubbles and thought bubbles and captions as well. if you do and are lucky enough to have a go and you can use Book Creator, here's just a little page just to guide you through how to do it. So when you sign up and you log in, the first thing you do is you would click on this button here for a new book. Then it gives you the options, and at the bottom you've got these 4. I personally like this one, the landscape, and then you can have a 4x3, and then once you've chosen the page shape that you want, you would then click on this plus button here and click on comics, and then what the first thing you would click on would be your panels, and then you have a load of different panels to choose. So how many pages you want in your comic, you can decide. When you've done that, you can think about your background. You can either click on media and click import to import an image. So if you typed in for a background, or you typed in Thor or one of the gods to find an image, you can do that. And then also in comics, as well as panels, you can add your speech bubbles, thought bubbles, text and stickers. So if you get to have a go at that and a play around and see what comic and story you can create. When you have finished making your comic and you want other children and myself and other adults to have a look at it, what you would then do is click on this share button here and click publish online. When it's done that, it will show you this page here, and if you click copy, public, share link to clipboard, just click on that link, and then you can email and paste that link in the email, and then we can put it on the website, and other children in our year group can have a look and they can see some of the comics that you have made. So we've got our second option there for you to try. So let's carry on with the story. If Arthur was to catch the sound of a cat's footfall, he would have to find a very big cat. He remembered Atric's tale of a serpent who could turn into a colossal cat so large that Thor himself could not lift it. As you can imagine, it was not too hard to find. Arthur only knew one way to make such a big cat jump. You can see there he's giving it an almighty whack on the back with a stick. Please don't do that to real cats. A gigantic boom echoed around the valley as the beast's huge paws hit the floor. Arthur held on tight to Thor's jar and captured as much of the sound as possible before making a quick getaway. For his second challenge, Arthur was truly stumped. He had heard of a huge library within the God's Hall. Perhaps he could find something useful there. He searched for an entire day and night, but found nothing. It was only when reading the last book from the very last shelf that an ancient piece of parchment fell out. There you can see it landing on his face. It was an old map of the Norse world. It showed the realms of the gods, the humans and the giants, and connecting them all was a great tree. The huge mountainous world tree. Arthur thought to himself. That was it. The world tree was the mountain with roots. It looked much bigger in real life, but with no time to waste and legs as sturdy as 2 cooked noodles, Arthur began the climb. There you can see him climbing. He manages to grasp onto the root but falls. But who comes to the rescue? Just as Arthur thought he was in the greatest peril, Wind Weaver swooped down and caught him in her talons. She carried Arthur all the way back to the God's Hall, where he triumphantly handed both glass jars to Thor. Odin, the father of the gods, appeared and emptied the jars into a giant cauldron. With a sudden flash of light, A huge golden rope began to rise, winding its way up through the air. Thor tied the golden rope to his belt and turned to Arthur. "You are truly a brave young adventurer, but you still have one challenge left. You must distract the wolf just long enough for me to tie him up. Then I can save your town." Arthur nodded solemnly, but quivered with fear as he looked at Thor's one-handed brother. What would happen to him if he confronted the beast? He would have to come up with a plan, and quickly. The path of Fenrir's destruction was clear to see. It tore through the forest and stopped right outside a small village. The group slowly descended and looked around for a sign of life when Arthur spotted something. It was a trap. A loud roar erupted from the forest as the most terrifying of creatures appeared. Arthur looked on, feeling impossibly small and helpless, and then he saw the beast right behind him. In fear, Arthur ran as fast as he could into the forest to hide. Fenrir's powerful nose quickly sniffed Arthur out, and a gigantic claw began to creep closer and closer. At that moment, Arthur was struck with an idea. He jumped up, ready to bash the wolf on its nose. But Fenrir was too quick. With a loud crunch, he bit Arthur's hand straight off. And then Arthur pulled out his real hand. Fenrir had been tricked. The huge beast had bitten the hand of time and swallowed it whole. His whole body froze in an instant, except for his eyes, which blinked in confusion. After defeating Fenrir's minions, Thor was able to tie Fenrir up, while Arthur beamed with pride. As they flew back to Arthur's frozen town, a bolt of lightning crashed down from the clouds into the main square. The great fire burst into life, and the ice began to melt again. The townsfolk cheered and gathered around to hear Thor speak. Arthur went quietly over to Atrix with his journal, full of the adventure and creatures he had seen. When Thor explained that it was actually Arthur who had defeated Fenrir, they all went to celebrate with him. But by then, he was already fast asleep. And that is the tale of the very first brownstone. Maybe one day you will hear some more of my ancestors' adventures, but until then, dear reader, I hope you go out and find some of your own, because sometimes the greatest heroes are the unlikeliest. And there you go. What a great story. I really enjoyed that. The images are magical in that book. So there you go. That's our World Book Day story and challenges for you to try. So you've got those 3 activities. You can do one of them over 2 days. You can try and do all 3. It's up to you, but you've got today and tomorrow, Friday, to really have a great go. Give yourself a bit more time than usual and have a really good go at doing those activities. Send us in what you've achieved, whether it's email, in a picture of what you've done, or if you're going to make a video, a puppet show, you're going to have a go at doing a comic, or write a story about a journey, or do it in any way that you choose. We'd love to see it, and we'll try and share it and put them all on the class page. But those are your challenges for today and tomorrow. Really looking forward to what you guys do. And remember, tomorrow as well, Friday, is the last day of this home learning. Okay? Really looking forward to seeing you all on Monday. Can't wait. And we'll speak to you soon. Good luck, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.